What's going on, folks? I'm Eddie Carson, and you're listening to Race Matters here at WJOP 96.3 FM, Joppa Radio, Newburyport. And I'm in the house just to talk about a lot of funk tonight and everything too. I got a friend here who is just super special, super funky, super soulful, a master white anti-racist who leans into the funk and who understands the significance of justice in this world in which justice sometimes is just hard to find, and it eludes us oftentimes as we try to find out what that might be and everything. And I'm going to stop pontificating and ask my friend Jennifer to step up to the mic. How are we doing, Jennifer?
I'm here. Thanks for having me, Annie.
It is always. And, we're going to spend a little bit of time just chit-chatting about everything. I call this one of those things where, well, hopefully folks heard everything I just said. Someone had to come in and push the right button because I never know what buttons to push and everything. It's like a little command set here and everything. Am I on a spaceship? Yeah. That's what happens when you only play vinyl records. No, seriously, I don't have a I don't have a playlist. Do you have a playlist?
I have so many playlists.
Do you?
I have, walking playlists and grief playlists and happy playlists.
Okay. So let's start there real quick. What would you say? What's at the top of your playlist
right now?
Yeah.
Love Will Find a Way by Mike Love.
I don't know if I know that.
Oh man, I'm gonna hook you up after the show. You gotta listen to it. It's just a beautiful song with several different artists, and it's just no matter what's going on, sad, happy, it brings me right to that place I need to be.
I mean, it's interesting. My students and other folks, they give me a hard time because I don't have a playlist, and they say, well, what do you listen to? Well, I listen to music. I'm rarely in a car because I live on campus and I can get to the office and everything, so I don't have those playlists. But here's what I do have. I have a lot of vinyls.
Okay.
I got Chet Baker. I got John Coltrane, Love Supreme, which is my go-to. I love it. I got Miles Davis, tons of his stuff.
Best.
Religiously just here. But I'm going to tell you, at the top of my list, always on my playlist, which doesn't exist, because again, it's either vinyl or it's YouTube.
If you were doing a playlist, this would be number one.
This would be number one. I absolutely love Purple Rain by Prince.
Oh my God. Every time. It kills you.
I mean, I sit there, students, I say, I just need a little time just to sit back and relax and meditate to this. I mean, I'm a old school soul brother, R&B, blues, jazz. I'll listen to everything that has some semblance of blackness, even bluegrass.
All right.
I'll sit back, I lean into bluegrass. And if the country's just right, I'll lean into the country music if it's just right too.
How are you feeling about Beyonce?
It's interesting. So I gave a lesson in my class the other day, and we were talking about race is a social construct, and I put up on a screen an image, a picture of Beyonce, and then I asked him, who is this? And it took him a while to figure it out because of the controversy around the fact that people were wondering if she was like whitening her skin. I don't know if you heard that.
No.
And she looked lighter. I mean, you Google it. And then I played them. So we talked about the construction of race, how race is this social construct, and what does it mean to be black? And there are a lot of different ways to be black. I have a way to be black, and I always sit there and I struggle with things such as, I struggle with why do some black people hate black people? Thinking about Candace Owens, for example.
Oh my God!
I mean,
she's something.
I was in my office today, and I was just kind of packing up some books and some stuff because I'm moving out of the office obviously here soon, and I had a
deconstruct Candace Owens.
I was interested. So I was listening to Candace Owen, and she had wow, I can't believe I'm forgetting the brother's name off the top of my head, but it was a good conversation, and he was kind of checking her along the way as she was kind of delving into really misinformation that she had acquired. And I mean, Candace, she was talking about the problems of black folks, the problem of black violence. We are the problems for our own problems, the excuses we make for our own problems. And then I can't remember the brother's name. He'll come to me before the end of the show, even if I could just blurt it out. I'm gonna process it slowly. And she was talking about things such as, George Floyd. We don't think he was probably murdered. We think because he was on some kind of meth or fentanyl, that's probably what really killed him, and making excuse after excuse after excuse. And I was just stunned by that and blown away. So I say all that to say, thinking about this notion of black people hating on black people, and thinking about this idea that this race is this construct along the way of Beyonce. And we talked about how white country radio stations don't want to play her music, her country music. And this idea of, when did we decide that music is going to be assigned to folks based off race? I mean, it blows my mind. I'll admit, right? And my parents, I'm just gonna call them out real quick. Right? My parents didn't listen to a lot of white folks' music when I was growing up. You just didn't hear it at all. But a lot of stuff my parents didn't listen to. I remember when I started listening to rap music, they're like, "What's this rap stuff? That sounds terrible. Y'all need to focus on Curtis Mayfield and Smokey Robinson and Gil Scott and all this other kind of stuff. Patti LaBelle." What's this? Ice Cube, NWA. Oh, they have great taste. And here's what they're not listening to. They're not listening to Def Leppard. They're not listening to Cinderella. They're not listening to Ozzy Osbourne or what's the brother from Philadelphia who did Slippery When Wet? John Bon Jovi, yeah. I remember listening to that, shot through the heart. I was like, "Oh, this is great. I like this." Like, that's not music. That's terrible. And then one day I woke up, Jennifer, and I discovered that I've become my parents.
You're like, these kids today.
I mean, you look at the vinyls I have. I'm like reconstructing their entire vinyl collection on my own.
I love though that somehow that got passed down to you though, like their love of music somehow got passed down to you, and it's true in my family too. My parents always had the record player on, and I loved music. I loved all types of music, and then my son, passed along to my son who loves music and is involved in music. Went to audio engineering school for audio engineering, so he was, plays the guitar and.
No, which I don't have that kind of skill nor talent.
But music brings people together. It's like one thing. Like it's message. They can bring their message out.
Yes.
And you feel it. Like when you were talking about Prince. It's his music. I mean. I never meant to cause you any sorrow.
Oh, I love it.
I never meant to cause you any pain.
I love it.
You're just like, it kills you every time.
It was just hitting my soul right there. I mean, whoa. I'm telling you. You put a little Love Supreme on. I got to pour me a little glass of scotch. I got to sit back and meditate. You put a little Purple Rain on by Prince. I may have to sit there reflecting, maybe even shed a tear over the beautiful stuff right there.
Always. I'm going to be walking with him tomorrow now.
Oh, I know. There you go right there. But it was interesting, So when we're talking about Beyonce and music, and I played for them Formation. And, she was kind of leaning in to this black identity, particularly talking about the South and New Orleans, and she was being unapologetically black. Yep. Then I had to play them an SNL episode where they were talking about Beyonce, where white people discovered Beyonce's black and they were losing their mind. It was just comical. Then we got to Texas Hold'em.
Yep.
right? So you're going to like this. So
All right.
we're dealing with this. I guess it was probably a few weeks ago at the beginning of Texas Hold'em. Her name is Rihanna Gibson or Gibbons. I think that's right. And she was playing over at the Cabot in Beverly.
Yeah. Did you go?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and she was leaning into her racial identity and everything
That's
too.
great.
So I don't know. Did you, when you were growing up, did you ever hear this thing where there's white folks music, black folks music, and this kind of stuff?
No, I think that was before my time. You know, I think Elvis is always, he brought it, black music mainstream, right? Like it was, he stole black music.
He did, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, just ask her, what was her name? Mama, who did Hound Dog? Oh, her name is escaping me. He did steal some music.
But in my house, it didn't matter. If the music was good, we listened to it. And, I remember my parents loved Johnny Mathis. Do you remember him?
Johnny Mathis, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there is there are very few shows that I actually make it through. There are very few shows that I fall in love with. There's a show on, I think it was on Amazon, or it's on something, called The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Oh, I didn't watch it. I heard of it.
Oh, it is fantastic.
Okay.
There's this black gay character on her named Shy Baldwin. And I was thinking about John. I was like, I think they're trying to model Shy Baldwin off of Johnny Mathis on there.
Okay.
That show is
I
fantastic.
have to watch that.
You'll thank me. I promise.
All right.
You'll laugh and you'll be like, oh, all right. I can get into this.
Why do you think it is that it's like they're acting like Beyonce is the first black person to ever do country music?
Because I think it's so you got this progression in Nashville where it's trying to become a little bit more progressive, a little bit more liberal, and you're seeing that in Nashville. You're seeing some folks trying to kind of lean in and bring in a different type of audience, but I think you still have some folks who are resisting that too. You have again, my brain, the cobwebs are there. Who did Fast Car from Tracy Chapman?
Yeah, right.
And I can't remember his name.
I can't either.
Yeah, which brought a lot of attention to this black gay woman who was doing great black music at a particular time, but yet you're seeing it cultivated. So you see that progress. Then then other folks pop up where they push back. These stations push back, and and folks want to say, when we think about race and race matters, that race shouldn't matter, but it does, because you have industries that protect elements of whiteness. Mm-hmm. You have it's almost like books and all those things. There's this canon that's defined for certain people. I mean, for me, when I was growing up, I'll be honest, there was this thing called black music and white music. There's you'll like this. When I was growing up, black folks rooted for the LA Lakers. Magic Johnson, Michael Thompson, James Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dennis Scott. Those were all the brothers played for the Lakers. All the white folks played for the Celtics. Kevin McHale, Larry Bird.
Yeah, we did. We had I can't remember. I only know his Cornbread. Cornbread was his nickname. I can't remember his real name, but he was a great black Celtics player. But yeah, you're right. Right?
Did you ever hear that with the Celtics in basketball?
Yeah.
It was like the black folks Lakers, white folks Celtics.
It's funny. I just watched something last night. I was like watching a reel or something on it last night, and they were talking about having to have a black guy guard Larry Bird, and otherwise, because we would have gone by any other white guy. So.
I mean, it's those things. They do exist when we think about race, and so that came up with Beyonce.
Yeah.
And talking about that, we were talking about.
I want to say one thing about that though. There's a black artist. I don't know if you know her. She's a black country artist named Mickey Guyton.
Yes, I do.
She sings "Black Like Me," which is just
do.
like this fantastic song that, like, if you listen to the words, it pretty much describes my entire children's existence. Living in a white community.
Well, you know why I know about her? Unfortunately,
Why?
Beyonce.
Because she was before Beyonce.
Oh, no, way before Beyonce.
Yeah.
But Beyonce was talking about really kind of what we're talking about. Like, how does some kind of music get assigned to certain people? Well, white folks
Right.
love Beyonce.
Right.
I think black people like Taylor Swift. I don't know. I like Taylor
I
Swift.
like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I think.
I'm white.
Yeah, you're white. You like Taylor.
I also like Beyonce.
Yeah, I like Beyonce. You know, I'll tell you what I can't listen to anymore, though. I cannot do rap music.
Oh God. My kids, my girls.
They love it?
Oh my God.
But I don't understand
I
it.
don't love it. My girls love it, and I have to just.
Tolerate it?
I feel like that's more of an age thing, right? Like I think I get to a certain age, and I'm like, I don't get this. Like,
But I don't understand what they're talking about.
I think that's where I'm at.
Right? It's like half the time I'm listening. I was in the car the other day, and I was like, you know, I had to drive down to Rhode Island and visit this school and visit with some folks, and I was just, you know, flipping through the stations, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. And I think the song is called Air, and it's spelled ERR Body, BODYOK, Air Body.
Yeah, you should have my girls on tonight because they would probably know the song,
All the
know
song
the
and
lyrics.
everything
Yeah.
like that. I mean, I think theoretically, I quit liking rap music probably after Biggie and Tupac.
Yeah. that
Got
was-
into Jay-Z a little early.
Okay.
No.
I liked Coolio.
Oh,
I
yeah.
liked Snoop.
1,
Snoop.
2, 3,
Yeah,
4.
you know.
Everybody, yeah, I can go on with Coolio right there. Yeah, I can do all that stuff. No, I can't. Have you been... Another thing that's come up in our class quite a bit, the whole situation at the universities, the protesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I get on social media and people are outraged. They're saying stuff like, how dare they protest? This is America. We've never protested before. Or they'll say things like, these same people who want to have you cancel our student loan or our student debt, then they're like, damn to America or something like that. And I'm sitting there thinking,
This is a tale as old as time.
yes, there's nothing new whatsoever. So what are your thoughts on what's going on these campuses?
Listen, you know, well, we saw it during the Vietnam War. We saw it during apartheid. We saw it during civil rights. You know, being the history major that I am, you know, we can trace it all the way back to Harvard, 1766, when they were protesting fresh food.
So I didn't know that. Okay, I just learned something new. They were protesting fresh fruit in 1766.
A bunch of students got together and they were protesting the fact they didn't have fresh food.
So then why do you think people are making such a big fuss that students are camping out? They're asking their institutions to divest. And again, that was something that people were asking the U.S., which would not do, going back to South Africa, apartheid, right? Why do you think that's a big deal?
I mean, it feels the right time for these college kids to be pushing the boundaries, right? This is when they learn to disrupt and to.
Oh, I like disruption.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. And you know, it's not for me watching this stuff on TV. It's both sides there's suffering. There is just suffering. I mean, everybody. The Israelis have suffered tremendously. The Palestinian people are suffering tremendously. And I think that protesting, anti-war protesting, divesting, whatever they're doing, they are drawing attention to an important topic and something that's happening in our world. I don't pretend to know it's not an area that I understand. The Israeli and Palestine.
Oh, I'm happy. We can after the show. I'm happy to give you a good lecture.
Can you?
Yeah, if you can't fall asleep, look, I'll record it for you. I guarantee it'll put you to sleep.
But if you're talking about protesting, like protesting just is. I don't know why everyone's acting like it's something that's just happening. It's not new.
Something new. I was made aware recently. You probably heard that at the University of Southern California, they've canceled commencement graduation. And it was pointed out that these same students also had their high school commencement.
Because of COVID.
Because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I get it. I get it. But then the question becomes, what happens in a world where folks don't feel that there's a wrong or injustices. We're not going to protest or anything. And it's not like these are violent protests at all. Some people push back and say, Eddie, I disagree. If you watch the news, that's just all sensationalized, right? I mean, folks occupying buildings, they've been occupying buildings going back to civil rights.
That's right.
You know, going back.
I think in Colombia, they occupied this same building during
1968.
During the Vietnam War.
During the Vietnam War. And it was interesting, too, because the situation in Colombia, I'm fresh on this because I just recently taught this stuff, so I'm not like a working.
I'm sitting here for the lecture. I'm
no,
here for it.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to avoid that. But you know, I was talking about this, and the students, you know, it started off in '68 at Columbia, where Columbia was expanding into Harvard, building this big gymnasium. Tell me if you've heard this before. Fancy colleges, building buildings, forcing black people out of their neighborhoods, right? I mean, gentrification before the word gentrification was in our vocabulary. So they're protesting that, demanding the stop, right? They're, again, the Vietnam War movement, the injustice of civil rights. I mean, I call that passion. When I talk to someone and I ask, so what do you care about? Is there anything that you would protest, that you would show up for a cause? Is there anything? And I'm just going to say this. I have asked some young folks that, and it's like, I don't know. And it breaks my soul and it breaks my heart. Oh. There's nothing you're passionate about.
Yeah. That's where we met. We met at a protest.
We did meet at a protest. Absolutely.
I had my then 6-year-old with me. You know, she was protesting, and I want my kids to have that passion about things, to care enough about something.
Always show up.
Just show up, and you show up, and I think that is what I'm trying to instill in my kids, and I think that, you know, we can't fault these kids for showing up what they believe in. I do worry a little bit about like this microeducation that's happening on TikTok.
Well, microeducation. Oh, I don't know. You got me here. What are we talking about? Microeducation.
You know, this idea that they're getting their education in 30-second TikToks.
Oh, yeah. Well, they only got about 6 more months, and TikTok's gonna be gone. They're about to ban that, so they better get 60 minutes of TikTok education, microeducation.
I just mean that, you know, it's like I am sitting here saying I don't profess to be any kind of expert on Israeli-Palestinian relations, but you know, if you want to protest that, go deep.
Right.
Get in there.
Yeah, I mean that requires, and that's an interesting point you bring up, because you know I have been concerned for a period of time about the social media, Twitter or whatever they call it now, age where you get little bit of information but not enough context nor framing to delve a little deeper in terms of what's taking place. I'll be the first to say this. I've had folks who've reached out to the studio here and they'll say, wow, he was wrong. I don't like what he said. It's like, well, you're happy to come on the show and talk to me about this, but I'm going to tell you what I'm not. I am not wrong. I am not wrong. And I say that not to be arrogant or cocky. I don't talk about stuff I don't know it. I don't know the information. I'm not going to walk into a math classroom and start giving a lecture on derivatives. Though I've tried to fake my way through that before too, and I was exposed. It's been a long time. But that's not going to happen. Do you remember the first demonstration of protest you ever engaged in?
Yeah, the one that probably in 2000, and it was the Black Lives Matter. It was in Boston. It was 2018. It was 18 and 17, 16. It was like right around there. I protested before then, but I think that this was the one that I just was feeling in my soul. Mm-hmm. Like I just felt it in my bones that I needed to be there. And it was led by a black woman, and so many white people were offended by the fact that she said, she was directing white people, right? You know, she was directing white people to stand on the outside to protect the black people who were marching, right? White people on the outside, don't talk about, you know, don't do this, don't do that. And white people were so offended by that. And it was so interesting to me. And I'm like, really? Like, this is your chance to start to take the steps to be an ally, to do the right thing. And we marched all around Boston, and it was pretty interesting.
I love it. I love it. I remember I've been in a number of protests, and I remember it was a big one. Yeah, we marched around Boston. Maybe this is the same one. It was the summer of 2016.
Yeah, that's good. We could have been at the same thing.
Yeah, we could have been at the same thing. I always tell folks, you know, I'm never going to get arrested for doing what's morally right. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to happen. I'm always going to show up. I'm always going to think about justice. I have no problem with that. So, not in one iota or anything. I worry about folks who don't show up.
I do too. Those are the people that you worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people sitting on the sidelines while they're, you know, either aren't taking a risk or using their power and privilege for the greater good. You know, I take issue with that.
We're engaged right now, as you know, and you've been involved and participated in an anti-racist series, the PEG Center for Art and Activism, the YWCA, myself, and, you know, we've done a number of things where we have really built the stage asking Newburyport to move towards anti-racism, right? We have a working session coming soon on May the 16th. Mm-hmm. And I'll say a little bit more about that soon. But I got to tell you, it's not the folks who've shown up that I've been impressed with, because I have been impressed and proud. And I'll say this, I've been quite proud of the white men showing up too. White men tend never to show up to anything because they don't have to show up for anything, right? But it's some of our officials here in town. It's elected officials, council folks, people who are not responding to my emails. Where you at? Are you going to show up? Are you going to help us manifest us in a particular way? Mm-hmm. That bothers me when folks don't show up. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do have thoughts.
I know you got thoughts on everything. I know what I'm doing when I ask you these questions.
Yeah, listen, I think that's where it comes from. If our leaders aren't showing up, why should anyone else show up? And if they're not answering emails,
no,
they're afraid to look at that. Like, it's not comfortable, right? It isn't comfortable to confront your own bias, your own ability to be a racist, right? But that is necessary work. If you don't do it, then you aren't ever going to move the needle for everyone in your community.
I'll give a shout out to a council person by the name of Ed Cameron. Cameron
he was there.
He's everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give a quick shout out to that white brother who seems to show up even when the cameras are not running. But I am just gonna put some other folks on notice that the newspaper or when cameras are not there and they're just invisible. I'm not gonna name who you are, but you know who you are, who are wholly invisible in that particular situation too.
I sent the flyer to the principal at my girls' school here in Newburyport to make sure that they knew that they were invited to go, but I didn't see them there, but yes.
No, and I hope folks will, and the thing is, people, they're always busy. We always have something to do.
We do.
As I tell folks, we live in a world where injustice is a reality, and the only way to combat injustice is to come ready with justice, right? With that good funk, that black music, that white music, right? That interracial music of all folks as we lean into it too. I know my mom, when I start talking this love language that I'm expressing right now, she's like, "Oh, baby, please, just be safe, just be okay and everything." I'm like, "Mama, what kind of son do you want?" Yeah, I
But
got
your mom worries. Like, I get that.
Yeah, so
Right?
so moms worry.
Moms worry, and this is the thing, right? Like, I'm the mom of 3 black girls, so I'm in a unique position, right? Like, I don't have a black community that I rely on. I have to go find those friends, those people that I can seek guidance from, that my kids can.
I'm glad we're friends.
Well, yeah, me too. But I worry about them every day, walking out the door. I worry about them in a different way. I worried about my white son. I didn't worry about him the way I worry about my girls.
And what are some of the ways in which you worry about them within society here in the 21st? I mean, because remember now, King gave a speech once, there's no more racism. If we stop talking about race and all these problems, we'll be in good shape. There's no such thing as structural racism or any of that stuff.
No, it's systemic, right? I mean, I've been reading a lot by, oh my gosh, Monique Morris, Dr. Monique Morris. She wrote a book called Push Out.
Push Out.
Push Out, the criminalization of black girls in schools. It was also a documentary. And she, for a long period of time, they were talking about black boys and the disparities against, the white boys, black boys getting suspended at a certain rate. Was she did a lot of data collection on girls and found out that girls are actually 6 times more likely to be suspended than their peers.
I didn't know that.
And that adultification bias is such a real thing with black girls. A black girl can have the same shirt on as her white peer, and that girl can get suspended from school or get detention, while her white peer who wears the same shirt doesn't.
Well, and I do know things like, particularly among black females, body shaming, trying to police women's bodies, which has always been a problem. But particularly, you can have a white female wearing one thing, and you can put a black female in the same thing, and it becomes problematic.
That's right. That's
just
exactly
a
right.
different level of expectations.
So it's these, and this has happened with all 3 of my girls, that they face microaggressions and this kind of implicit bias that happens in systems that they are in. And combating that is a monumental task.
What would be? We're talking about injustice, social protest, demonstration. We know probably the greatest way you can protest and demonstrate is voting, showing up to vote, voting for the right person, not voting for people who are going to, propagate injustice or anything like that. What would be your wish if you could drive like one tool, one instrument? I mean, how do we rid injustice? What if you had to pick one thing out of a million? Tough question on the spot. What would that be?
One thing out of a million.
I know, one thing out of a million. Look, I'm asking a question. I'm like, shoot, what would I say?
Yeah, what would you say?
Thinking?
Because it's more about dismantling these systems that exist that are you can't. I always go back to that Audre Lorde quote, right? Like, you can't dismantle the master's house with the master's tools, because you can't do it the same way, right? You have to break this whole thing apart and start over from scratch, because the system was a system of oppression.
And the thing I like about that quote is one that I'm familiar with, is that some people have made that akin to how we think about education, right? A system that oftentimes exclusionary. People, they push back in ways because they believe there's too much. I hate this. Wokeism.
Oh my God.
A word that has been just kind of hijacked.
Wokeism has been hijacked. DEI has been hijacked. All these things.
Oh, I didn't know about DEI. I didn't know all about that being hijacked. I sit there sometime, even here on this show, and I think, what should I say? What can I say Right? How much security do I have? Well, what the hell? I'm a black man in America. I'm just gonna have to roll with it no matter what. Then I'll deal with the consequences later. Then I say that, and I gotta pay my bills.
Right.
Right? Which is a reality.
And yeah, you're living in. So, what is it like for you to live in this community? And what do you think? What would be your thing? What would be the one thing you would, if you could change anything?
If I would change anything, let's see. Hey, I got a better way. Here's how we're going to answer that. Here, let's switch seats. Here we go. We're going to switch seats. We're going to switch seats. All right. I'm so excited to be on your show, Race Matters, hearing everything. And so, to answer your question, what would I change?
Yeah.
Here's what I would change. I would focus on the fact that, one, oh man, so many things. I'm going to start off with schools. I'm going to start off with the public schools.
Education.
Yep, to start with education. One of the things I'm going to say is that we in order for people to engage and to communicate and do the things they need to do, we need some semblance of cultural competency, right? I want to hire Eddie Carson. That's the first thing I would do. I'm serious. I mean, last time I checked, the folks around here weren't banging on my door looking to employ me to say, we're going to break the bank if we have to get you, because we know you're going to engineer the kind of anti-racism change that's needed in order for us to be a better community. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to implement a policy in which schools aren't sitting around here waiting for BIPOC folks, people of color, to come here knocking on the door looking for a job within schools to be educated. I'm out at fairs. I'm actively hiring, recruiting. What do I have to do to retain folks? That's the second thing I'm going to do. The third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure those folks who want to come here feel invited. Right? We're going to make sure that housing's provided. We're going to engineer ways to make sure they feel a semblance of safety. We're going to run seminars. We're going to inform families of what's taking place. We're going to create affinity groups and really have conversations with students in a real way, not to create this sense of this fear of, another word that's gotten popular, indoctrination or any of that stuff. No, we're talking about radical love here, right? So I'm starting there. The next thing I'm going to do, right? I'm creating tax breaks, tax incentives. I'm looking to have more black businesses here. I'm taking down that Blue Lives Matter flag in front of police stations and everything too. I want people to feel safe. Next thing I'm doing is I'm going to have cops walking around as community officers. They're taking down this war material like they're headed into a combat zone. I'm talking about community policing, where folks actually know your name and you don't fear them, whereas it's me, I sit and duck and dodge and I move away from them in a lot of different ways that's there. That's just like the tip of the iceberg of some of the stuff I would do.
Can I ask you a question about
Please.
So when you were growing up, did you have community police officers, or were you taught to, like, when you saw a police officer, whoa,
We didn't have them. It's been a wish. When I was growing up, I struggled a lot. It's funny, it hadn't really changed much as I've gotten older. I struggled a lot with insomnia, just mind racing, and so it wasn't unusual where I would go for a run at midnight in my neighborhood. And it wasn't the other folks in the neighborhood or anything else that mama and folks were worried about. No. We were worried about a white cop pulling up and shooting me because, again, this is pre-Trayvon Martin, but we're all Trayvon Martins in different ways, whether you're male, female, or you identify as gender non-binary. That is what it looked like. The first time I was harassed by a cop, I was a sophomore in high school. I had my mom's car, and I was with my brother coming back from some kind of like concert show or whatever, and we pulled up to this hamburger place, and I pulled up, and I left my keys in there. And so I went and I started knocking on the window just to tell them, hey, because they locked the doors. They're ready to go home. I get that. But my keys are in there, so we can't go. So I'm knocking, and they won't listen. So I really knock. And then this woo and this light and this loud microphone with these two white cops tell me to back away from the window, and they pull up to us. And and they say, get in the car and please leave. And so I'm talking to them, trying to explain the fact that I can't leave because my keys are in the restaurant. So then they come up and they ask me to leave, and I'm explaining to them over and over and over again. And so I'll admit, I'll own this. I had a little smart mouth. I did, because I was frustrated at that point. I think I said something, whatever. Cop took me, threw me up against the car.
Oh my God.
Right? Patted me down. Right? Threatened to arrest me if I didn't leave. And I don't remember what happened. My brother tells the story much better than I do. He was like, Mom, I was scared. I thought they were going to shoot my brother, So that was the first incident for me.
So, but this is something that white people here in this community don't even get. That this is something that we teach our kids. Like, I teach my kids to not engage, right? To not be a smart mouth when it comes to that. Put your hands where they can see them. Do every single little thing, because I have fear. It goes back to that thing about being a mom when you were talking about that. And I think the thing you were doing with Peg Center and the YWCA when we had the you had the people in the fishbowl, the people watching seemed shocked by what they were hearing. And yet, for somebody who is black, or I have black kids and see it all the time, this is not news.
No, it's not. But people would say is, oh, it happens to white people. You just got to follow all the behavior. No. It doesn't work that way, because I am hyper in tuned of white spaces, white environments that are there, how I carry myself, how I engage. I'm particularly sensitive of how I approach white people, particularly white women, right? Just really, really, really cautious in everything. I mean, we all remember Emmett Till, and I'm not saying we're getting to that extreme, but things have a way of blowing up. This has become such a political thing, and most people don't understand that when folks call for defunding the police, they're not talking about taking money from them. They need plenty of money, right? And they need all the money and all the training they can get. But are they trained and prepared to talk to someone with mental health issues, to de-escalate a situation, to be in certain spaces? That's, this is where you get social workers and experts who can do that. We all can't be experts at everything.
No, we can't, but we all can look at our implicit bias, and we all can do that work. And I think that if police officers were trained in that work, and they did recognize, signs of mental illness. There's this case in California not too long ago, a 15-year-old boy with autism was shot by the police.
I missed this.
Within 6 seconds of coming to a domestic violence situation at a house. And this boy, from all accounts, is just this lovely boy with autism. He had a stick in his hand. And they didn't think, they didn't even stop to think. It was like 6 seconds, I think.
That doesn't, we know.
It's those stories that make my heart sink, and your mom's heart sink.
Yes.
When your mom's like, Eddie, please just be safe. Just, she's thinking, oh my God, anything can happen at any time.
She does. As I've gotten older, I'm nowhere near as radical as I once was when I was younger. Sometimes I miss that old person just a little bit, but
For all do you have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother. He's a younger brother, 3 years younger than me.
Was he as much of a disruptor as you, or not so much?
No, he is. I'm gonna have to get Zoom and get him on the show. We are quite the opposites. We talk about this a little bit, and my brother would be the first to say, Eddie, I'm just not like you. He's aware of these things because he's black and he's in America, but he's an artist. He engages in different ways. He went to our school, and I went off and went to a predominantly white day school when I was in high school, where I really became conscientious, and you see things in different ways. I was in that white school because, come on, you can run a football, right? Can't have much of a mind, do you?
Well, they were wrong on that. I don't know about your football skills. I I know.
You know, but you know, and I will say, of all things though, I'm still in touch with folks there from my high school, because it did help me in a lot of ways. I'm very much appreciative, even though I went through some of those microaggressions. Of course, that wasn't a word when I was in high school. Right. So imagine how our vocabulary has grown since then as we've leaned in and everything too. So I don't know. It's different. It's, you know, I was one of 2 black students in my graduating class. How about yours?
It was just the complete opposite of that, right? Like there's like 2 black students.
I remember we talked about that
we
before.
We definitely had talked about that, and that was true in our school here.
But what did that do for you in you being conscious of racial elements as a white person?
Well, in high school, I'm not sure I was conscious. You know, I really wasn't. I had some. You know, I was always wondering why there wasn't equally. Like there was like something, what is there's not equity everywhere. I recognized that at a really early age. I think I just was instilled by my dad most likely, and you know, and I was always aware of it, and I wouldn't be unkind or any of that. But it wasn't until I had my own kid, my girls, and where I really began to look at my own stuff, right? Like you have to look at your own bias, like what my bias was, and I'm still every day I learn something about myself that I'm not doing right, or I could have done better, or I should have said something, or whatever it might be. But one thing I do notice, like I asked you about your brother, because I have one child that follows all the rules and fits in perfectly everywhere she goes, and I have one. Your friend,
yes,
who is, you know, she's a disruptor by nature. And
hey, Blue. Hello, Blue. You need to take a look at this, my friend. I love you. I miss your beautiful soul. I haven't seen you in a while. I still have that gorgeous picture of us together and everything. I may have to frame that one day and send it home so you'll remember. But go ahead. I just had to give her a quick shout out.
And so she's the one I worry about the most, because I worry about her and I don't worry about her, because when you have the ability to speak your mind, to care about something enough, like these kids on the college campuses, you know, you're gonna make your way in life. You're gonna do something. You're going to, you know, like what you've done here in our town, right? You've brought people together. You've started tough conversations, and hopefully they'll continue, right? After you leave.
I love it. Okay, we got to switch seats.
Just back.
Okay, we got to switch seats.
Yeah.
All right.
I like sitting over there, though.
You do? Okay. So we have to make this a permanent thing. We'll call this Race Matters, and both of us leaning into this and everything, too, what we do. So, as always, I like to give my guests the last word on what's on their heart and on their soul. Well, and I'm going to pontificate for a second and give you a second to think about this, because you're going to get the last word here on Race Matters. And while that's taking place, you know, this whole pontification that's there, I want to continue to encourage folks in this area and all areas to show up, right? I promise you that if there's an injustice and you're part of that injustice, I'll always show up. You call me. You write me, you tell me that you need me to show up. That is a fact. It is a guarantee, not because I want to be a social disruptor. I can't sleep if I don't show up at all. And I think I have a nice track record of that. So enough of me pontificating, because when I'm an academic, I'm a soul brother. I can do this all day.
I could actually do this all day too.
Oh, I love it. That's what I'm talking about. So
it's like us having dinner. It's just the same thing.
Oh,
it's our conversation.
I cannot wait for that to happen. Last word, my friend.
I mean, I think in our community specifically, I would like to see, you know, different people showing up, like you were saying, and not just leaders, but people who might not even have any skin in the game to show up. Just come and listen and learn something, because you're gonna learn something. It's how we are able to change things, is by listening to each other and really listening, right? And I think that exercise that you did made it so that you had to listen to the people talking, and the people in the room had to hear. And we have to do more of that rather than immediately coming back with some kind of reactive statement or, because that comes up, people's egos get involved really quickly. But to let that down a little bit and just be like, it's okay, because we all have it. It exists. All of us white people have it at some level. But we can change things. I fundamentally believe that, and I too will always show up for you, and I will always be showing up in this community when it comes to race issues particularly. Yeah.
Folks, this is Race Matters. Thank you for chiming in and listening. We appreciate it. Be well.